Good morning, children. Let us start today the modal verbs. What is a modal verb? A modal verb is a verb that changes or modifies another verb. So it is basically a helping verb that supports the main verb in a sentence to produce a particular meaning, to give direction to the meaning itself. So, number one, they can drink, where can is the modal and drink is the main verb. In a way where without can only they drink would have meant something else. So, they can drink, okay? Can do. So, they can drink. Next, number two, she will go, where will is the modal and go is the main verb. So, will is basically supporting the meaning produced by the word go. Next, you shouldn't wait, where shouldn't is the modal verb. Next, I can't think properly, where can't is the modal verb and think is the main verb. Let's see which modal verb is expressing what. Can expresses ability, doubt, astonishment, permission, polite request. Next, may expresses permission, if not prohibition, supposition with doubt. So, students, all of you take permission in your life for doing this or that. So, you know the meaning of the permission very well. If not prohibition means to say no or to prohibit something, to let not happen something, to put obstacle, supposition with doubt. Students, if you are supposing something, if you are guessing something, must be you are not totally sure of that or what is going to be its result. So, supposition, you are supposing something and you are having doubt. Next one, must. It expresses obligation, firm necessity, logical conclusion, probability. Students, probability. When anything is probable or it will likely to take place. Next one, shall. Intention, supposition. Next one, will. It expresses desire, wish, will, confidence, something in the future, ought to, which expresses moral duty, insistent advice, strict recommendation, need, basically necessity. Students, if need not is given, then it will do the opposite of revealing the necessity. Okay, next one means B2, which expresses obligation arising out of arrangement or agreement. So, obligation, what you are to do, and you don't have any other option for that. So, what you have to do. Next one, have to. Unwillingness, forced circumstances. So, basically, what you are not willing to do, so you have to do that task. So, have to is used there. Forced circumstances. Definitely, if you don't have the desire to do that task, you are forced to do that. Next, would, which expresses wish in the bracket with to like bracket close. Polite request, a habit of the past. Next, should, necessity, advice, blame, recommendation, reproach, regret. Students, necessity. Definitely, when the situation demands or when you have extreme need of it. Advice, when you give any kind of good or bad advice to someone, okay, to help him or her, suppose, or likely the opposite. Next, blame, when you put a certain blame on someone or when you put any allegation, when you say against of that person, so that is blaming. Recommendation. Now, recommendation is what any employer or anyone with power likely or may do sometimes. He or she gives recommendation for any person or for anyone who carries good work. Reproach. Now, this is a scolding that you often have from your parents, or you are sometimes being scolded to stop doing something. Next, regret. When you feel extremely bad about something, when you feel that you should apologize, you do something wrong and you regret, means you feel somewhat bad and you just want to do somewhat the opposite of that, or you feel that your work was not good. When you realize, when you recognize. Next, used to. Repeated action in the past. So, something which had repeatedly been performed in the past. So, that kind of activity or that sort of action which had been carried out in the past time, for that used to is used. Example, see the sentences with the word have to, has to, mustn't, doesn't have to, don't have to. You have to do it. They have to learn. So basically, it is revealing necessity. So in the first picture, you can see that it's about necessity. It is necessary. She has to sit. Joe has to go there. Next one. It reveals prohibition. Mustn't. You mustn't do it. She mustn't watch this. They mustn't see it. We mustn't go there. Next. Joe doesn't have to do it. She doesn't have to learn. They don't have to say it. I don't have to go there. And doesn't have to or don't have to is not for what is necessary. Means what is not necessary, okay, is revealed by this two things. See the usage of may. Use may and might to speculate about the past. Why isn't John here yet? You can easily see that it is said by the man present over here. Now, the lady says, I don't know. He may have missed the train. So, something which had happened or which have already taken place. So, that activity, okay, or which has taken place, okay. So, that activity or activities are being conveyed by the use of may or might. Next, use could to talk about ability in the past. I could have been a professional dancer, but I broke my leg when I was 17. So I could have been something. Okay? But it hadn't happened, suppose. So I could. Next, Rob must have eaten my cake. Past modal verbs. So Rob must have done something. Okay. Must have eaten what? My cake. Use must to talk about what is believed to be certain in the past. The bicycle has disappeared. It must have been stolen. So, it must have been stolen. Students, these are basically about recent past. Use would to talk about past possibilities and consequences. If I had passed my exams, I would have become a doctor. If I had passed my exams, I would have become a doctor. So, someone would have become something if he would have passed his exams. Here, basically, I'm telling this. Here, I, the very thing, the very indication of I has been given. So, I had passed my exams. I would have then. If I had passed my exams, I would have become a doctor. Negative would plus not plus have plus past participle. He would not have crashed the car if he hadn't drunk so much. Once again, he wouldn't have crashed the car if he hadn't drunk so much. Questions. Do you think you plus may or might plus have plus past participle? Do you think you may have lost your keys? So it's a question. Use should to talk about past mistakes, recommend or criticize strongly. You should have been here 2 hours ago. Sorry, there was traffic. Next, negative. Could plus not plus have plus past participle. Wow, 100% on your exam. You could not have done any better. Well done. So, wow, 100% on your exam. So, you have got 100 percentage of marks. Okay? You could not have done any better. Okay? So, If someone gets 100%, then definitely he had performed very well in his examination. So, he had performed very well and he could not have done any better than that. Will. See the example. I will give you a call on Monday. Next, I will take these books with me. First one is promise. I will give you a call on Monday. So that is basically a promise. Next one. I will take these books with me is an instant decision. Next one. We will book your tickets if you like. That is an offer. Next one. We will see an increase in salaries next year, which is certain prediction. Next modal. Would. Would you mind if I opened the window? This is definitely asking for permission. Next one. Would you make me a coffee? A request. Suppose you are telling to your friend, would you make me a coffee? Next. Would you be available at 6 p.m. tonight? So basically, this is for making arrangement or arrangements. Next one. Would you like to go out sometime? This is an invitation. So, would you like to go out sometime? Next, would you prefer the window seat or the aisle? Preferences or preference. So, what would you prefer to have? Next modal. Shall. Shall I get the phone? Or will you? Asking what to do. Next one. Shall I call a cab? So, shall I call a taxi? It's an offer. Next one. Shall we see 9 p.m. at Emmy's then? It's a suggestion. So, shall we say 9 p.m. at Emmy's then means shall we meet or shall we say that we are going to meet at 9 p.m. Where? Emmy's means a restaurant, suppose, or a coffee house. Next. Should. You should see a doctor. You don't look well. It's an advice. We should get a specialist. Recommending action. So it's about recommendation. It's about stating or commanding about an action. Suggesting. Next, salaries should go up next year. It's an uncertain prediction. So it's a prediction, although uncertain, or although with having uncertainty. Next, ought to. You ought to go to the dentist before you leave. It's an advice. So you ought to do something. Ought to is almost parallel to the word must, or it is almost equal to its relevance, its usage, or what we use for is almost equal. So, what for must is used? Almost for that much necessity or that much obligation, ought to is used. Next word, must. I must leave now to catch my train. It's an obligation or necessity. So I must leave now to catch my train. Suppose the time for the arrival of my train is coming near and I should leave. I must leave. So I must leave over here. Next, you mustn't ask too many questions. So it's prohibition. So it's completely saying no, suppose, to something. You mustn't ask too many questions. So, anyone, suppose one of your elders is quite annoyed with your frequent questions and he or she is telling you this. You mustn't ask too many questions. Thank you, students.